Okay, so yesterday you created a design brief by filling out a game design document. Today we will be looking at a conceptual model. So what is a conceptual model? It's a representation of a system that uses concepts and ideas to form what you're creating. In other words, a way to describe what you are creating in an abstract way. So it's important to give that visual representation of what the client is looking for. Also allows the client and the designer to kind of be on the same page. Make sure they're both in agreement of the look and the function of the project. So the conceptual model you're going to be doing is going to be a menu options screens flowchart. So this is one example that I found. It's a great example, and we're going to kind of walk through this so we can see what it represents. So here is the main menu. So this is going to be the first screen. If the user chooses, hits the options button, brings them here, and their options are they can adjust audio, adjust video. They could also adjust controls or look at the credits of who created the game. So if they click controls button, it looks like it gives them the option of keyboard controls or maybe mouse control. If they click credits, they get to see the names of the developers. As you can see, there are back buttons on each of these screens to take you back to the main menu. Okay. So if they hit the extras button, that brings them down here, where they can look at the vehicles, races, and tracks. Here there's a player select, where they can choose the type of player that they want to be. Also looks at the vehicles that are also available in the game. And again, going back, there should be a back button here, but there isn't. So that'll bring them back here. So if they're going to actually start the game by hitting new game, it brings them here. They can choose whether they want a single or multiplayer. Once they click that, it'll take them here. Again, here's another player select. Not sure why they have it twice here. It may be over here just to see what the players are and what the vehicles are, but you're not selecting them over here perhaps. It's a little confusing, I think. But over here you select the player. Once you select what you want, maybe over here is where you can select your character portrait. I'm not sure. Anyway. Then you go down to your vehicle select. They have the note here potentially for the vehicle select screen. Whenever you mouse over the vehicle, the platform the vehicle is sitting, the platform the vehicle is sitting on would light up. Okay, so that's one way to do it. So they have 3 to choose from. Once they select that, they get to the confirmation screen. Is this the vehicle you want? Is this the player you want? You confirm or go back. Once you confirm, it takes you to this loading screen for a quick tip, and then to the game. So here's the game, and even though it's just one screen, we're not concerned about what the game screens look like right now, or how many there are. So this can be represented just with one screen. Now when the game is over, it takes them to this screen. They can quit or resume, and then finally you have this end status screen, which is really hard to read. So that's just the basic flow of this. You can see we have the arrows going, and we can assume when they hit back, it's going to go to the previous screen. You don't need an arrow showing that. So the arrows only show the flow of clicking through each screen. Once you hit back, we know it's going to go to the previous screen. All right, so here's the assignment. And again, using draw.io, which you've used before, or you can use another program of your choosing that creates flowcharts. You will create a conceptual model of your video game. Roof tutorial on next slide, which is a tutorial of how to use draw.io if you haven't used it or just need a refresher on how to use it. All right. So following the example on slide 51, which is this example here, you're going to design a menu system that includes, at the minimum, the main menu screen, a rule screen, and that rule screen will have rules and objectives of the game, controller explanation. You don't need to spell this out. The rules, the objectives, you don't need to spell out the controller explanation. As you can see here, it just is represented by shapes. The credits represented just by the word names. So you can use icons or shapes to represent that. Okay. You need a player sprite selection screen, difficulty level selection screen, play again, quit game screen, credit screen, And of course you need those selection buttons and back buttons when they're appropriate. So as you can see on each screen there are some sort of select buttons. Not all screens have back buttons. The main screen doesn't because it doesn't need it. There are no selection or back buttons here because this is just loading the game, giving you a quick tip, and automatically takes you to the screen. So you need all that. Each screen must be clearly labeled. So just like you have controls, credits, options, race selection, player selection, we know exactly what each screen represents. All boxes, drawings, icons must be clearly labeled as they are here. So we can see the buttons are labeled with what they are. With these here we can figure out, it could say keyboard here, could say mouse here, but I think by the shape we can figure out what it is. And instead of creating vehicles, I just made boxes. You can be a little bit more creative if you'd like, but that's up to you. Alright, and the flow of the screens must be evident. As you can see here, we talked about the arrows that are going. And you don't need to put a back arrow. If you have a back button, we can assume that it's just going to go back to the previous screen you're at. So this point here, this bullet point here, this bullet point here, this is everything that you must have. You're going to submit the flowchart in Unified Classroom. And as a reminder, when exporting your flowchart, click File, Export as JPEG or PNG if you prefer. Do not export or save as, because it'll export it as a .io file and I can't open that. You have all day Tuesday to complete that. It will be graded on complete inclusion of all of these requirements. All of these screens that you must have, the selection and back buttons when appropriate, each screen clearly labeled, all boxes, drawings, icons clearly labeled, and the flow of the screens being evident. Again, this is for your educational video game that you are in the process of developing. So use this chart as a template again. This is a great one. Again, a little confusing having player select here, and no arrow here. But for the most part, this is a good representation of what I'm looking for. Again, as always, any questions, email, message me, and have fun.